All right, here we go. Today we're going to go ahead and explore advanced enemy movements. We're going to take our enemies and give them some extra movement. Right now they're just going left and right. We want to actually make them go bloop, 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 kind of like go in a circle-ish. So, although our game's working, let's make it more interesting. This is the layout of what we're going to do. Our enemies are going to kind of take it in steps. So we're going to have them like shift to the right, shift down, shift to the left, shift down, and repeat. So the very first thing we're going to need to do is add another global variable because we want all the enemies to be moving at the same time in the same direction. In order to do so, we will right click up here and say add another variable. We will call this enemy movement. Remember, we don't want to put spaces between. Our enemy movement is going to take a number. Strings are lines of text, booleans are true false. So we're going to take a number, and our initial value will be 0. And nice. All right, it's yellow. I had to just click off. Very good. Next, we are going to go ahead and add the custom behavior to our enemy spaceship. Hopefully you guys are getting pretty good. In order to add another behavior, we need to click on the enemy. It doesn't even need to be on the layout tab, but you could just click on the enemy and you'll go down here to behaviors, add a new behavior, and this time it's going to be called custom. It looks like this little wrench here. And we're good. Da-da-da. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add a new condition every X seconds, event condition. So back on your event sheet, so we're here, we're going to add a new event. So go down here to add event. It'll be for system and every X seconds. So I'm going to go ahead here we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to say every 3 seconds. What we are doing is we are going to create a custom behavior where our enemy spaceships kind of move in a rotation, and this rotation happens every 3 seconds. Great. Next, we are going to add a sub-event to our brand new event here. I think I'm going to try and scroll down. Hopefully this makes it a little bit higher on your Chromebooks. So in order to add a sub-event, what we're going to do is if you right click just to the left of this 8 block, we will go to add sub-event. What we're going to do is we're going to customize what do we want to happen every 3 seconds. So the very first second, as in second 0, we are going to do, notice I clicked on the gear, add a sub-event. To your sub-event, we are going to add the compare variable condition. So right here, we're going to compare the variable. We're looking for enemy movement. So if the enemy movement is equal to 0, we are going to tell the spaceships to do something. In programming, you'll see that a lot of times we start counting at 0 rather than 1. So that's going to be true for Construct 3 as well. So at second 0, we want our enemy to set a speed. So notice there's different set speeds. Don't use this one. We're not trying to do animation. We're trying to do it down here in the custom. So set speed under the custom. Make sure your set speed has the wrench right next to it. And we are going to do a horizontal speed of 50. So this very first speed that we're setting is saying that in our first second, we want all of our enemy spaceships to move to the right at speed 50. Whoops, enter. Okay, next. Okay, so after they move to the right, we want to wait for 2 seconds. This is going to actually give them 2 seconds to move to the right. So we're going to add a new action here to the system, and we're going to say wait for 2 seconds. So a lot of times when we are programming in games, or I see this in my robotics course right now, we have an action, and then the wait for is saying, okay, we're going to do this action for 2 seconds, and then we're going to change. So following up after 2 seconds, what we want to happen is we want our enemy to stop moving. So we're going to add an action for the enemy, and this is in the custom stop. So make sure, again, you're in the custom for stop. And then we're going to set our enemy movement variable to 1. So that's going to take us out of this enemy movement sub-event and bring us into the next one. So we'll go to the gear. This was set value for enemy movement. Okay, I sometimes lose this. It's set value for enemy movement. So we're getting out of the 1 or 0 loop and we're going into the 1. Sweet, and now we're done. So this is all good. What we're going to do is we are going to add 3 more times, like kind of the same format here. So that's what this next page is all about. Create more enemy movement sub-events. So in order to create another sub-event, I'll go to add sub-event, system, compare variable. We're doing enemy movement, and the last one we did was 0, so now we're going to do 1. Notice 0, 1. The next one you'll have is 2, and then the last one you'll have is 3. So we will add a action. This time, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want our enemy to have a vertical speed of 15. So remember, we come down here to set speed, vertical 15. We're going to wait for 2 seconds, we're going to stop, and then we're going to set the enemy movement to 2. So really the same thing. The only thing that's different in this sub-event from this sub-event is what you set your speed to. All right, so system, this was, we want to go down to wait for 2 seconds. So I'm impatient. I'm going to just type it up here. Wait for 2 seconds. And we're going to add the action for stop custom. So that's, we want our spaceships to stop moving. And then add 1 to our global variable. So that would be set value to enemy movement from, we just did 1, so now we're going to change it up to 2. Sweet. Boom, boom. All right, we got 2 more to go. So right click, go to add sub-event, system, I'm trying to do this by memory now, compare variable, enemy movement. This time we just did 0, we did 1, now we're doing 2. And now same thing, except we're going to do a horizontal speed of -50 this time, because that's going to bring our guys back to where they were. So first we want our spaceships to move, set speed. Remember, we want to be in the custom and not the animation. Horizontal, check this out, -50. Because the first time we went 50, now we want -50. You could put in any number here as long as you've got your opposite for, like, they're opposites. So my 0 condition allowed me to move 50 in the right. Now I'm moving 50 to the left. You could do 75 and -75 here if you wanted. That would make them move a little bit faster and a little bit further. All right, so now we're going to wait for 2 seconds. Then we're going to stop the action. Stop the podcast. All right, stop. And set our global variable to 3. Check that out. We're almost done. 0, 1, 2. Now we need to do the 1 for 3. And again, it almost looks like they didn't, let's see, 15, 15. I wonder why. I would have thought that you'd want to do negative 15 because that would put you back where you started. Well, we'll just test it out. We'll add it to the 15 and then we'll decide if we want to make it negative 15 or we could just try negative 15 and see how that works. All right, so add sub event. Here we go. We are comparing variables when our enemy movement is equal to 3. Then we want the vertical speed of our spaceship, vertical to be, this is what I'm talking about, 15. We'll see. I could always change it to negative 15 if I want. Wait for 2 seconds. And then I want that to stop. And then, since we're trying to create a cycle, we're going to set our variable back to 0. Sweet. All right, let's go ahead and test this out. Actually, one more thing we want to do. We want to add one more condition to our start layout. So you will see that this third event kind of like sets up our game. This is also what we call initializing our variables. And so from the get-go, we want our system to we want to set the value of enemy movement to 0. So kind of like we set our enemies to 27, or if you've got 30 spaceships on your board, maybe you set yours to 30 when the game begins. We're also going to set the enemy movement to 0. As usual, save, floppy disk, and then we'll play our game. I wasn't ready. And as you see, now they are moving. Oh, I know why we did 15. To keep them, like, moving down closer and closer to you. Oh, that's so fun, because if you would have done negative 15, then they would have, like, gone up. But to make this game more challenging, it's kind of like spikes coming down in you, in, like, Zelda or, like, a video game. Like, as time goes on, the enemies are getting closer and closer to you. I see what you did there, Star Defender. All right, super cool. Make sure you file, save your game, and that's it for this section. Now I'm super excited.